Welcome. My name is Peter Strong. I'm a professional online therapist specializing in mindfulness therapy for the treatment of agoraphobia. So if you're looking for online psychotherapy for agoraphobia, then I do ask you to visit my website and learn more about this online service that I offer via Skype, and then feel free to email me using the contact page to ask any questions you may have about this online psychotherapy approach for treating agoraphobia. So mindfulness therapy, which is what I specialize in and have developed specifically for treating agoraphobia and other anxiety disorders, is extremely effective. It works in a very strategic and focused way on helping you resolve the fear reactions, the anxiety and panic attacks that are a feature of agoraphobia. So the primary approach that I will be teaching you is called Mindfulness-based exposure therapy. So all forms of successful psychotherapy for treating agoraphobia will employ some form of exposure therapy. Clearly, that is a necessary component to help you extend the range of confidence that you have to be able to move into areas that were previously very difficult for you, to move into different social situations, and to leave your comfort zone and develop a much broader level of comfort. This is a necessary approach. So we work by extending the boundaries of our comfort zone. And we do this by developing a systematic approach. That is, that you will design a series of challenges to go to your comfort zone and move a little bit beyond that comfort zone on a daily basis. But the important thing here that I teach in the mindfulness-based approach to exposure therapy is preparing before you do each challenge. I feel this is what is often missing. Simply throwing yourself into difficult anxiety-producing situations is not very efficient and probably not very effective for most people. You have to train yourself out of the habitual anxiety reactions before you do each of the challenges. And that's the focus of mindfulness therapy and the mindfulness-based exposure therapy. So you set up a series of challenges, and then we do the training. So the training is about meditating on each of those challenges. You start off by playing the challenge through in your mind in order to find those anxiety reactions. You want to get access to them under your terms so that you can work with them consciously rather than trying to struggle with them in the heat of the moment during the challenge. So when you've accessed an anxiety reaction or fear reaction, you then work on helping that anxiety resolve itself. You're promoting an internal pathway that heals the anxiety so that you can imagine doing the challenge without feeling any fear. That's the goal of the rehearsal meditation, the training before you do the challenge. Now, one very important way of healing the internal habitual reactions that lead to anxiety is to develop a very strong relationship with that anxiety reaction, where you are the observer, what we call the true self, that which is able to be present with the emotion without becoming reactive and without becoming identified with that emotional reaction. So this is the first most important training with the anxiety, learning to be present with it without becoming identified with the emotion, without becoming overwhelmed by it, and without proliferating anxiety-based reactive thinking. So we train to do that. It doesn't happen automatically. You have to train. You're training yourself out of the anxiety habit. So that's the first part. We form a very strong non-reactive relationship with the emotion, and then we move to the second part, which is developing compassion. This is what really heals the anxiety. You look at that anxiety in the same way that you might look at a frightened animal or a child. What it needs is your compassion, your presence, your non-reactive presence. So we develop compassion towards the emotions. The emotions are what constitutes self. When we are talking about developing more compassion towards yourself and learning to love yourself, what we really mean is that you're learning to develop compassion and love towards your emotions. So that's very important. That promotes healing in a very significant way. The other way that we can work with emotions is to change the imagery of the emotion. So we will find when we meditate on our emotions that they are all based around some form of imagery. Typically, intense emotions are too big and too close. But that imagery is produced by habit. That is what creates the anxiety, that emotional imagery, and it's habitual. So we work on changing that habitual imagery into a different form that helps that anxiety resolve. So that might be simply making the emotion smaller in size. It might be moving it further away from us and seeing it in its new position and being a lot smaller. So working with imagery can be very, very effective indeed when you're working with anxiety and fear reactions. So this is all part of that preparation, that rehearsal meditation. We look for the anxiety as we imagine it going beyond our comfort zone. We then help that anxiety heal. So we're setting up pathways in the brain that heal that anxiety if it gets triggered. Then we do the challenge, and our job then is simply to stay awake, so that if we notice anxiety, we simply acknowledge it and let that training take effect. Then after the challenge, we may meditate again on the results. We look for any anxiety that got triggered during that challenge. We work with it in the same way, helping train the anxiety to resolve itself. We also develop appreciation for what we have been able to do during that challenge. And we magnify that imagery too. The sense of being more in control, the sense of being bigger than the anxiety. So that's developing the natural imagery of your true self. Your true self does not experience anxiety. It is that natural place that is free from anxiety That's our true nature. After completing one round of challenge, we then repeat it after taking a break, and we keep doing that until we have completely overcome any trace of fear with that specific challenge. Then we move on to the next challenge in our list, and we work with that in the same way, doing these trainings before each challenge, executing the challenge, meditating after each challenge, and then repeating until we have neutralized all anxiety. If you take this systematic approach, you will see results very quickly. And indeed, most of my clients see dramatic changes after just 2 or 3 weeks of practicing in this way. So what I'm attempting to do is give you mindfulness tools for overcoming your anxiety and working on your agoraphobia from home. Being able to see a therapist online, of course, is very convenient and quite necessary if you're suffering from agoraphobia and find it difficult to leave the comfort zone of your home. So you can have sessions in your home via Skype. If you would like to learn more about the mindfulness approach for online psychotherapy for agoraphobia, then please go to my website. Please email me if you have any questions, and let's get started. Let's schedule a Skype therapy session and get started on your recovery process. Thank you.